long. It is well over day 1000. We're into the 1200s now, and it's so good to be with all of you on this Thursday on our archive challenge day. I will just get started and welcome everybody into the room. First of all, thank you to everybody who's watching on the live stream today. Thanks for joining. And thank you to Jennifer Cutting and Steve Winnick from the Library of Congress American Folklife Center. Yeah. Thanks for being here and hosting. And thank you, Elena LaFulana, for being our song leader today. Can't wait to hear from you really soon. And good to see you, Trish in Victoria, BC, and Kevin in DC. Welcome. Hi, Deborah in Kentucky, and Arlene in Berkeley. Hi, Mabel and Two Bears in Massachusetts. Hi, Deli in Silver Spring. Athena in Brooklyn. Good to see you. And Gary Pausner. Good to see you. Aloysius coming in from Massachusetts. Thanks for being here. Harriet in Illinois. Susan Miller, hello. And Susan G in Ohio. Good to see you. Hi, Julie in Ontario, Canada, and Sheila in Florida. Hi, Cricket in Maryland, and Anne in Nashville. Hello, Kevin Ennis. Good to see you. And Kathleen in Albuquerque. Hi, Bob Gaser and Karen in Oregon. Carolyn in Boise. It is, in fact, day 1208. Thank you for that. And thanks for the sign. Hindi, good to see you. And Nancy and your Irish cow, glad you're here today. I see Dawn in one curly top. I think that's Willard. Hello to Wayne Erbson. Thanks for joining today. And Fred in Silver Spring, Mr. James Harkless in Silver Spring, Storm, great to see you. Phil and gang, it looks like Phil and Pauline in Newcastle. Good to see you today. And Bonnie in Boise, welcome. Hello, Nick, coming in from the UK, and Suzanne in St. Ange, I think that's Maryland. Welcome, and Amanda and Miles in Michigan, great to see you. Hi, Anne in Silver Spring, and Jamie in Victoria, BC. Busy Graham, welcome. She is the founder and fearless leader of Carpe Diem Arts, the reason why we're here today. So big round of applause for her. Thank you for joining us today. And Annette in California, welcome. Bob, outdoors in Massachusetts, welcome. Lynn in Connecticut, hello. And Andrea Decker, glad you're joining us today. Roger Lacayo, I think that is somebody related to Elena. Welcome. And Moon in Virginia. And Sarah, thanks for joining. Hoda in BC, thanks for joining. And Kat in Vermont, thank you for being here. Without further ado, I will turn it over to Jen and Steve.
Hello to all our old friends and our new friends, and it's great to see you all here. I'm Steve Winnick, and this is my colleague Jennifer Cutting, and we are folklife specialists for the Library of Congress here in Washington, D.C. Jennifer was trained as an ethnomusicologist, and I was trained as a folklorist, and we have the great good fortune to work as part of the American Folklife Center at the Library of Congress. So we want to welcome you to the 4th Archive Challenge Thursday here on the Daily Antidote of Song, when the American Folklife Center of the Library of Congress has partnered with Carpe Diem Arts to bring you a new archival gem interpreted by a great performer every Thursday in July 2023.
And the Library of Congress, just by way of a little tiny bit of background, we were established way back in 1800 when President Adams signed a bill transferring the U.S. Capitol from Philadelphia to Washington, D.C. So it's officially the country's oldest federal cultural institution. And it's also the largest library in the world with over 173 million items. And the American Folklife Center is, of course, just one small division of the library. We're a staff of only 30 people in a library with over 3,000 staff members, so we're just about 1% of the library, but we really pull our own weight and more in terms of cultural programming. And in addition to, and archiving, I should add, in addition to maintaining the American Folklife Center archive of about 7 million items, we provide reference services. We produce concerts and lectures and symposia, blogs and podcasts. One of the fun things that we do to get the wonderful things we have out to the world is the Archive Challenge, where we invite artists to learn a song from our collections, put their own spin on it, and perform it for all of you. So we're going to tell you a little more about that and more about today's featured field recording soon. So we hope that you have a little time to stay after we sing so you can hear about the background of all this. But we wanted to get everybody singing as soon as possible. So
I will give you a little bit of background on our song leader who is here with us, Elena LaFulana. She is a Latin Grammy-nominated instrumentalist, singer-songwriter, and leader of the DC-based bilingual folk band Elena y los Fulanos. She's originally from Nicaragua, and she identifies as both American and Nicaraguan, and her music reflects this dual identity. So most recently, she has been touring with the Latin Grammy-winning and Grammy-nominated band Flor de Toloache, and with them, she actually performed at the Kennedy Center Honors in 2019, which is pretty cool, and the Latin Grammys in 2021.
Very
So
cool.
very cool indeed. So Elena, we'd love to hear you sing the results of your research and the gem you found in our archive, and you can also teach us how to sing it with you. So I will turn it over to Elena LaFulana.
Thank you. And I'm so happy to be here. It's so cool to do these resurrections of old recordings. The song I'm going to do didn't have a lot of sing-alongable parts, so what we're going to do is we're going to repeat one of the most beautiful phrases, which is the first phrase of the song and really the kind of idea of the song. So it goes, it's in Spanish, but it's pretty easy, so let's try it. It goes like this. Ay, Merce, melodia donde tú estás. Let's try it again. Ay, Merce, melodia donde tú estás. Ay, Merce, melodia donde tú estás. And what we're saying is, oh, mercy, or Merce, it's a name, melody where you go. All right, let's try it one more time and then I'll go into the song. Ay, Merce, melodia donde tú estás. Ay, Merce, melodia donde tú estás. Ay, Merce, melodia donde tú estás. One last time. Ay, Merce, melodia donde tú estás. Ay, Merce, melodia donde tú estás. Bate el gato y baila el león por donde pasa la negra Merce. Ay, ven Merce, rompa ya negra a bailar, que ella tanto te va down, quiere candela hecha de chango. Ay, métele, métele, dale al bongo y también dale al chan chan. Se fue mal la baramba, en fin. Ay, ven pa' acá, que ya loco se soltó, por ti me voy a volver también loco yo. Ay, Merced, tú tienes bilongo, ya se va la alegría del solar. Como tú no hay boom, me muero por ti, negrita. Y ven, Merced, trota, oye y baila más. Si tu cuerpo tiene tú, a su tuquita. Ay, Merced, tú tienes bilongo, ya se va la alegría del solar. Como tú no hay boom, como tú no hay boom. Let's repeat the chorus. Ay, Merced, melodia donde tú estás. 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 Ay, métele, métele, dale al bongo y también dale al chan chan. Se fue mal la barabaramba, en fin. Ay, ven pa' acá, que ya loco se soltó, por ti me voy a volver también loco yo. Yay.
Wow, that was awesome. You did it. You did it. I
did.
have to admit, I listened to this field recording and I said, Elena has picked out the hardest song in the entire collection. It has slow parts and fast parts. It has machine gun fast words. It's, not always easy to hear the words, and it's got great chords, but they're complicated chords compared to a lot of our field recordings. And you are a musical overachiever because you picked this and you totally hit it out of the ballpark. So thank you. That was a
Thank you.
wonderful.
It was fun.
Cool. So we're going to tell folks a little bit about the collection and the field recording that Elena did such a magnificent job on. So one of the interesting things about this collection, it was made in Florida, and we have a couple of collections from Florida at around the same time, and that's because the Florida WPA did some collecting, and they kind of scouted the place out, and then Herbert Halpert came down with the Joint Committee on Folk Arts of the WPA. So the feds came down and did some collecting, and this was actually one of Herbert Halpert's collections. And it's
our forebears,
yeah,
the folklorists
and it's interesting because Zora Neale Hurston was actually instrumental in asking Halpert to come on down and do some of the collecting that he did. So she's in the background of this recording, which is kind of interesting too. But the singer here, Adela Martinez, we don't really know very much about her. We do know, and you'll hear this on the recordings when we play them for you, that she called herself Adelita. So she says Adelita Martinez, her band leader said Adela, which must have been her given name. But under the name Adelita Martinez, I found a lot of mentions of her in the Cuban newspaper of Tampa in that era, which was called La Gaceta. But everything I found out is very specific. It doesn't say anything like when she was born she was probably an immigrant from Cuba, which most of the residents of Ybor City were, but many of them were by that point second generation too, so she might have been born there. So everything I found out was very specific. For example, I know that she had a surprise operation for appendicitis only about 2 months after this recording, and that 3 weeks after that she was back to performing, and everyone was surprised by how resilient she was. So that's one of the cool things. So the newspapers also told me that in addition to being a singer, she was an actor, and she acted in the Cuban theater in Ybor City, which is not that surprising. Ybor City itself had been founded in 1886 by Cuban cigar manufacturers led by a man named Vicente Martinez de Ybor, and he was looking for a place to expand the operations that they had in Key West. And one of the sad things was that one of the reasons was that in Key West there was a big labor organizing movement, and he wanted to avoid unionization. And one of the reasons for that was that the cigar factories actually used some child labor, which wasn't legal at the time. So we have some pictures of cigar workers in Tampa, which we could show you. The first one, well, that's a later one. So that one's actually in the 1980s, and that just shows you that this profession in Tampa, and Ybor City is now a neighborhood of Tampa. It was a separate town at that time, but it was right adjacent to Tampa even then. So that's a current one, and then there's an older one which shows you what people would have looked like in these days. And as you can see, they're quite young. There were women as well as men, girls as well as boys working in these factories, primarily rolling cigars. So they were making fine cigars, Cuban cigars, for the global market. That's sort of the background to this whole community in Ybor City of Cuban Americans. And Ybor City was one of the first towns in the South that was owned and inhabited primarily by immigrants. So it's kind of an interesting city for that reason. And now, as I said, it's a neighborhood of Tampa.
Which made it a very, very interesting place for folklorists to do field work.
Yeah, exactly.
During the WPA,
exactly.
Which several of you, thanks for jumping in and explaining that WPA stood for Works Progress Administration.
Yes.
Government program to give work to people at a tough time.
Yes, and so we can now hear Adelita Martinez sing this song, and you'll hear she says her name at the very beginning.
Adelita Martínez, la que tiene el gusto de hacerles el canto congo Merce. alegría de chango. Ay, métele negro al bongo y también darle al chachán. Se formó la rebambaramba aquí. Ay, ven pa' acá, que ya el loco se soltó. Por ti me voy a volver, también loco yo. Ay, Merce, tú tienes bilongo, ya se va la alegría de sola. Como tú no hay dos, me muero pa' ti, negrito. Ay, ven, Merce, los tríos ya bailan más. Si en tu cuerpo tienes tú a su titizal. Ay, Merce, tú tienes bilongo, ya se va la alegría de sola. Como tú no hay dos, como tú no hay dos. Ay, métele negro al bongo y también dale al chachán. Se formó la rebambaramba aquí. Ay, ven pa' acá, que ya el loco se soltó. Por ti me voy a volver, también loco yo.
Woo! Adelita Martinez singing Merce. And you can hear this field recording as many times as you like. Let's pop the link into the chat for the field recording. It's at www.loc.gov. Item. There we go. So visit to hear that again. And it's also interesting that the collector who was making this recording, Herbert Halpert, interviewed the band leader, who is also the piano player. Art, he pronounces his own name Art Pages, which he might have anglicized from Arturo Pages. We don't know. He prefers to be called Art Pages. So Herbert Halpert interviewed Art Pages about the song, and it gives us a little bit of insight about what the song is about. So let's hear that brief interview between Herbert Halpert and Art Pages.
The song that you have just heard was sung by Adela Martinez. The name of the song is Merce. It's a different type of song that have been sung before. For this one is dance halls in Cuba. That is that rhythm. You also heard some Cuban drums played by Ramon Bermudez, and Mr. Delfino was playing gourds, and I was at the piano, Art Pages. Carlos Pose helped her out by helping her sing in the montuno, that is the fast part of the number. The number is divided into two parts. The first part is sung a little slower than the second part. The second part is a little faster. They keep on getting fast until it takes up to a very fast tempo. The idea of the song is, the name of the song is Merce, and that's a name, proper name. And it's a Negro girl's name, and she's supposed to be the most popular of the party, and the song refers to her popularity, that is her way of dancing and acting and speaking and so forth, and everybody sings to her beauty and her pep, would you say, and the whole song is based on her.
Thanks, Jaden, for playing that clip. What a 1939 word, her pep.
Yeah.
Her energy, her magnetism. So, yeah. So that brings us back to Elena, who had to learn this song. And whenever you learn a song from a field recording, your first step is, I don't know if it was your first step, Elena, is to transcribe the words. Did you learn the words or the music first?
I started with the music to see if I could actually play it in some way. And as soon as I kind of started to understand the structure of the song, then I started to look at the words. I mean, that's my general approach with music. It's also the way I listen to music. It's more, the words kind of come second to me, which I realize is not how everybody does it. But I'm also very rhythmically oriented. I think that's why I chose this song, because I thought it was of the selections, there were like a lot of lullabies, and those tend to be kind of not very rhythmic. A lot of children's songs and a lot of songs that didn't have like instrumentation. And I liked this one because I thought it was so pretty and so interesting melodically. And it's more in line with kind of the Cuban music stuff that I've been like learning in other capacities. And so I thought it was a really nice opportunity to just kind of reinterpret and dig into it. It's beautiful. The more I got into it, the more I liked the song. And yeah, it's just a really beautiful interpretation of, it's painting a picture of this woman who kind of lights everything up when she walks through the neighborhood, through the party. She makes everybody play music. It's melody is where you are is kind of like she brings music with her everywhere that she goes. And I think that's beautiful. It's also such a, I don't know, it feels very tropical to me, the way that it's depicted. Just people, when they're happy, they start playing music and stuff. And so I really resonated with this. I also spent some of my childhood in Florida, so I thought it was a cool way to reconnect with that. More in Miami, but I didn't really know anything about, this history. So it was really cool to have that opportunity.
Oh, thanks. Thanks for mentioning that, because I too lived in Miami in a neighborhood with many Cuban folks, and which is why I speak some Spanish, because I heard so many Cubans around me speaking Spanish when I was young. And there's just a vibrancy to the Cuban community in Florida that's amazing. And this is also quite a kind of sensual song. I mean, this verse that you've translated as, "Oh, come over here, the madness has been released. And for you, I will also go crazy myself. Oh, Merce, you put a spell on me." It's quite a passionate song.
It really is.
And of course, this is not your first rodeo with the Archive Challenge. You participated in the American Folklife Center's homegrown concert series Archive Challenge performance in our Coolidge Auditorium on September 20th, 2018. And at that Archive Challenge, you performed a Spanish language song that had been collected by John and Alan Lomax in Cotula, Texas, or Cotulla, in 1934. And it was called Presidente Wilson me puso una ordenanza.
Yeah.
The Conscripted Soldier. And you brought the same high-level skills to transcribing it, translating it, interpreting the song to bring to a new audience. And in case our viewers would like to hear Elena performing that song, which is, a Mexican song. So she's hopped from Mexico to Cuba
Texican.
today. Texican, yeah, Texican. Here's a link to that concert we're putting in the chat. And we did an interview with her after the Archive Challenge about her research and her revisioning process for that song.
All right, so
someone's mentioning in the chat that Chango is an orisha, and I think that's an important thing to mention. There's a couple references in here to Santeria and different kinds of. When I looked up not Chango, there was another reference. Bilongo. Ay, Merced, tú tienes bilongo. Oh, well, you put a spell on me is what I translated it as. But it is also, from my research, a Santeria term, which is like to enchant someone, to kind of put a spell on them. But it comes from that tradition, which obviously is very big in the Black community in Cuba. And, this is actually an example of a song where the Black community is very much this Black woman is very much looked at super positively, I would say, and like really, really praised, which honestly is a little refreshing sometimes when I'm looking at the archives, I'm a little scared, but this was a nice experience to see that reflected.
Yeah, and we'll just say that a lot of that Afro-Cuban religion comes directly from Congo religion, which word is actually spoken by Art Pages in his explanation of the song. The whole Congo pantheon and the various ways in which that was syncretized with Christianity became a big part of Cuban life even today, and it was certainly, and that's true of both Black and white Cubans, but it's mestizo, but it's particularly true of the African American or the Afro-Cuban community, I should say. So that's a big part of this song as well.
And speaking of this lyric, Elena, you said you pulled in the help of some help from your parents, and
yes,
I think maybe one of them is here today.
Yeah, they're probably both on. Hey, mommy, puppy. Because I had to listen to the recording, and I did my best. I did like a once through, and I was like, it'd be really good to have someone else like maybe that has a little more vocabulary, and maybe has some some slang that I might not understand. Maybe contribute and give me some feedback. And my dad has a pretty good ear, so I sent it to him, and he apparently and my mom both sat down and kind of helped me out with a couple lyrics that I had kind of wrong. But some of it is we suspect is onomatopoeic, so they're not words, they're just like imitating drum sounds and things like that. And so I think that's what it is. But, at the end of the day, this is our job to kind of try to reconstruct to the best of our ability. I mean, obviously the recording is, can't really understand everything that's going on. And so, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. And it was cool to bring my parents in to help me out a little bit. And
thank you, Mommy and Papi.
They're listening from Miami. So
I'll mention that that Anne mentioned in the chat that she went to Memorial University, Newfoundland, where Herbert Halpert was a professor for many years after making these recordings, and that he's definitely one of our important disciplinary forebears as folklorists. Absolutely. And one of the things that's unfortunately true is that he made vast amounts of recordings for the WPA, the Works Progress Administration, which we have in the archive, but not that many of Halpert's recordings specifically are online. So he's probably like one of the most extensive collections from that era that's not entirely online. So it's nice that some of them are online within our Florida WPA collections, which you can get to from that field recording if you just go to the collection link. So we definitely recommend listening to more of Herbert Halpert's recordings. I also was privileged to meet him when I visited Newfoundland in the early 1990s. He died in 2000, I think, but he was there all the way through the 90s in the department.
And one of the great public folklorists.
Absolutely, yeah. So good to remember our forebears, our own ancestors, our own muertos, as they say, in this discussion that includes Congo religion. So before we ask Elena to sing the song with us again, we want to let all of you know how you can take the Archive Challenge. We do archive challenges in various venues, including conferences, festivals, and our own homegrown concert series, which Elena was part of. But when the pandemic hit, we decided we had to come up with a way for people to do the archive challenge while they were, unable to leave their homes for a few weeks there. And so we figured out a way to suggest that people do it straight from home. And we put those instructions into a blog. So you can find that in the chat. We'll put a link to that blog post explaining how to do the archive challenge yourself.
Right. So now that we know a little bit about the history of this field recording and the Cuban community in Ybor City, Florida, why don't we go back to that wonderful song? Elena, would you be willing to lead us again in the song? And we'll be even better at our Spanish this time.
Absolutely. All right, let's give it a start. Let's give it a shot here. We're going to start with Ay Merce, Melodía donde tú estás. Here goes. Ay Merce, melodía donde tú estás. Together. Ay Merce, melodía donde tú estás. donde pasa la negra Merce. Ahí ven Merce, rompa ya negra a bailar, que ella tanto te va down, quiere candela hecha de chango. Ay, métele, métele, dale al bongo y también dale al chan chan. Se fue mal la barabaramba, en fin. Ay, ven pa' acá, que ya loco se soltó. Por ti me voy a volver, también loco yo. Ay, Merced, tú tienes bilongo, ya se va la alegría del solar. Como tú no hay boom, me muero por ti, negrita. Y ven Merced, trota hoy y baila más, que en su cuerpo tiene su atutuquita. Ay, Merced, tú tienes bilongo, ya se va la alegría del solar. Como tú no hay boom, como tú no hay boom. Chorus. Ay, Merced, melodía donde tú estás. Ay, Merced, melodía donde tú estás. Todos. Ay, Merced, melodía donde tú estás. Ay, Merced, melodía donde tú estás. Beautiful. Ay, métele, métele, ven al gongo y también dale al chachán. Dame más la barabaramba, en fin. Ay, ven pa' acá, que ella loco se soltó. Por ti me voy a volver, también loco yo. Yay, nice job, everybody. Thank you so much.
I have to say, Elena, there's music wherever you go.
That's right.
Oh, thank you. It's very sweet.
You bring it. Yeah, very awesome. So thank you so much, Elena. Thank you to everyone in the room for coming and joining us here. We want to thank Elena for delving into the American Folklife Center Archives collections and finding this gem, Merce, to sing with us today. It's a song, often people are picking songs that to us archive workers are classic songs that we know like the back of our hands, but this was not the case in this case. We didn't really know much about this song or this singer, and it's great to have new gems brought to our attention too, that we can, I'm sure I'll continue to poke around and see if I can find out more about Adelita Martinez as we go on. So once again, so many thanks to Elena, but also to Joe Rossi and Jaden Brick. Joe Rossi sort of coordinated this for us. She's not here today, but to Jaden Brick, who actually ran the meeting so beautifully. This was a great daily antidote, and we love Jaden for doing that. And of course, thanks to Busy Graham of Carpe Diem Arts, who's on with us today. She can't always make it, but Busy is she's very busy because she does so many things, and this is one of the things that, as part of her being a music mastermind here in the Washington, D.C. area. So thank you to Busy as well. And thanks to all of you for choosing to be with us today at noon in the virtual room or on Facebook Live or however you're watching us. So thank you so much for coming to the Daily Antidote of Song.
And this has been the fourth and final Archive Challenge Thursday for the month of July on the Daily Antidote of Song. So we want to remember all of July's Archive Challenge artists and thank them: Thea Hopkins, Peter and Mary Alice Amadon, Vedant Bharadwaj, and Elena, of course, for mining our archive for beautiful gems to polish and bring out for you this month. And Elena sang in her 2018 Archive Challenge song. She sang, "Adiós, mis amigas de mi estimación, a todas las llevo en mi corazón." Goodbye to all my friends of great affection. I'll carry you all in my heart. And we will carry you all in our hearts until we meet again for another Archive Challenge. Have a wonderful day, everyone.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Jen and Steve. This has been like a really amazing another edition of the Archive Challenges, and we're so lucky that we have you here and coming to do this cool series with us. We always learn so much, and it's just a really fun experience. So thank you for all the work that you do. And one last round of applause for Elena. Thank you for sharing that amazing song with us, and your voice and your amazing guitar playing. It's always wonderful to sing with you. And thank you everybody else for singing today. Thanks for being here. Kevin in DC, Deborah, good to see you. Arlene, good to see you. Bye, Mabel and the Bears. Athena, thanks for joining. Bye, Susan G. Julie in Ontario, glad you could join today. Goodbye, Sheila in Florida, and Cricket. Kevin Ennis, glad to see you and singing along. And Kathleen, thanks for being here. Goodbye, Carolyn. Amanda and Miles, great to see you dancing today. And Diane Weinstein, glad you could join. Goodbye, Nancy N. and your Irish cow. Wayne, I'm so glad you could join us today. Thanks, Fred, for being here, and Mr. Harkless. Phil and Pauline and Shizuka, thanks for joining today. And Nick, thanks for being here. And Annette and Deli and Gary, thanks for joining. Goodbye to Bonnie and Ann in Silver Spring. Goodbye, Jamie, and goodbye, Chuck and Bob in Massachusetts. Bye, Trish and Aloysius. Goodbye, Willard and the other curly tops if they're around. By Storm, thanks for being here. Hindi and Harriet. Roger, I think Elena, is that your dad? Roger Lakai. Okay, cool. Thanks to Elena's parents for helping and being here today. And Moon, thanks for joining. Goodbye, Sarah, Benitez, and Hoda, and Kat, and Lynn in Connecticut. Goodbye, Susan Miller, and Loriana, Kachina, and Courtney. Goodbye, Jane in Texas, and KM. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday, everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow on the Daily Antidote of Song.